Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video, we're going to focus on some subscriber gameplay review, and this is where we kind of look at some subscriber gameplay, and I provide feedback while trying to give the best tips and tricks on how to improve. If at some point you'd like to be featured in one of these videos, make sure you check out the description down below. And just a quick reminder, if you do enjoy the video in any way or find any of the tips helpful, make sure you hit that like button. See if we can get this video over 500 likes, and if you're brand new to the channel, typically cover Call of Duty news, in-game updates, best class setups, subscriber breakdowns, as well as other tip and trick videos on how to improve a Call of Duty. And if that's the type of content you typically like to watch, make sure you subscribe and turn those notifications on. So for the first gameplay, we're actually going to see some KN gameplay in TDM on the map Arsenal. So when it came to the class setup, the only real change I would make is maybe drop quick draw for rapid fire, especially since they're already running gung ho. So they start off by running down the middle of the map, which isn't a bad push. The only downside is sometimes enemies can get to positions a little bit quicker. You're going to see they sit on the head glitch as the person comes through. They're kind of pre-aiming it. They absolutely laser the person, so the aim seems on point. They were strafing slightly, so they were able to land those shots and win that gunfight. So initially, you can see the acoustic sensor going off. They're pre-aiming, which is a smart thing to do. A lot of times you could play aggressive with that as well because you're not really sure the distance. So maybe they could have jumped through the doorway, which you'll see that would have paid off a little bit later on. This guy ends up getting taken out, and now all the teammates are consolidated in this one bubble. All the enemies are pretty much straightforward. Pre-aiming, you can see the acoustic sensor going off. Go ahead and come around over here, and doesn't really do a great job of strafing, kind of wiggles a little bit. So actually I have a couple different recommendations for that scenario. One, they could have strafed right after taking a little bit of damage, got the cover, re-healed themselves, maybe came back out. Didn't look like that Titan user was an aggressive player. The other thing is maybe if they had rapid fire on, they would have had a better chance to actually outgun that player. And lastly, you just got to hit your shots, and that's what it kind of comes down to at the end of the day. One thing I did want to point out is this is a questionable spawn. The fact that this player and their teammates just spawned at the exact same location instead of the home spawn tells you that there is an enemy in that home spawn that is cycling around that area. The game didn't think it was safe, so that's why they spawned you out mid-map, and that's where this guy came from. He comes through the doors and ends up taking him out. So that's always something you got to have in the back of your mind every time you die, then respawn in. Acknowledge where you're spawning, and if it's not one of the home spawns, that should give you some kind of indication of where the enemies are. They end up getting this first gunfight out of the way, and then they get kind of pinched because the other guy's coming around from behind them. But not the best scenario. That guy was probably standing there because you saw they spawned out to the left side, and when they ran out, there's probably an enemy in that home spawn. So that's a lot of times, like I said, it goes back to that. If they would have acknowledged that, you know what, I didn't spawn in the home spawn, let me go ahead and clear out that home spawn so I feel a lot safer that I'm not going to get shot in the back, or at least wait for one of my teammates to spawn in that safe area. And then this time around when they spawned in a home spawn on the opposite side. That tells you all those enemies are on that one side. Good map awareness here using that acoustic sensor, kind of positioning themselves back and forth. Seems like the enemies and the teammates are kind of just running wild, so there's no sense of control or flow to the map, which can make team deathmatch feel a lot more hectic, especially since most players don't know how to lock down a specific area or spawns in a general area, so you at least got some predictability. So in this particular scenario that's coming up right now, they're going to be low health, and then what ends up happening is they go ahead and re-heal themselves, reload, and they could have backed up. They could see on the acoustic sensor that someone's coming around. The better bet was probably to back up just a little bit and use the map to provide just a little bit of cover. So this next little sequence that's going to happen is related to the map awareness and paying attention to the mini map and where your teammates are. And that's a lot of times, it's kind of repetitive sometimes, but at the end of the day, those are some of the fundamentals that seem to always pay off. You see where all the teammates are. They're all clustered again. Everyone's kind of holding hands in this area. See the mini map just lit up on the left side. It lights up 5 seconds before they get shot. And they could have been repositioned around the wall, so maybe they didn't die so easy. So for this next section, there's actually going to be two separate tips. One's related to using your specialist, and the other is going to be related to accuracy. So let's talk about this specialist one. We know the halfway point in a TDM match is 37, 38 kills. So if you're getting your specialist before then, that means you can get your specialist twice in one match. And for a lot of these lethal specialists, like the one they're using right here, Prophet, it is a game changer. So they go ahead and take this guy out. 35 kills, and they already have their Tempest shot. So once they get close to a position where maybe they could use it, probably ideal. Right here is the accuracy part of it. Let's go ahead and rewatch that. And what you'll notice is almost every bullet is high and to the right of the enemy player. They are currently strafing right, so they're not able to adjust for that. The quick adjust is to strafe left to counter that, and they would more than likely hit almost every single shot. And I consider that more of an advanced aiming technique because it's counterintuitive. You actually got to go the opposite way that the enemy's actually moving so you can line up your shot. You would have maybe strafed left for a quick second, that would allow you to lock on, get a little bit of sticky aim on the target instead of being just ahead of them and missing every single shot. I skipped ahead just a little bit and you can see that the Tempest is still available. This is probably the ideal scenario. There's so many enemies, they're close together. You hit one, you're gonna go ahead and get that chain reaction and kill multiple, and they end up just peeking out, gets absolutely demolished by the Titan. The Titan was their foe on this map. You can see they killed him 5 times. They only die about 8 or 9 times, so that's almost half of their deaths just from one player. There ends up being a player join later on, and they end up using the operator mod. So they get the oppressor as well, so it gets kind of annoying at the end. But overall, these are some of the main tips I wanted to focus on, because you can get that Tempest shot twice for the pace they were going at. Just something to be aware of. If they're clustered together, got a lot of enemies, go with your overpowered gear. It's in the game for a reason. So 1 subscriber review down, 2 more to go. Let's go ahead and get into the second one. Just a reminder, in case you are enjoying the content at all, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. So for this breakdown, we're going to see some Maddox gameplay on the map Summit, and the mode will be Domination. And we're only going to focus on the first half of gameplay because it demonstrates a lot of things that just come down to decision making. And the main reason for that is because I don't think the actual gun skill or the loadout are holding them back. It's 100% the actual decision making. Let's go ahead and take a look at this first scenario where he goes ahead, kills the enemy, goes ahead and tries to triple cap. There are only 2 reasons to ever triple cap, and these are the only 2 reasons. 1, you're trying to flip spawns so that now they would spawn on the A side, and 2, you need to cap all 3 objectives to actually win. Neither of those scenarios are currently happening, so that was just a bad decision. What you'll see throughout the gameplay is he tends to hang out a little too deep into the enemy spawn. Right here, there's not much he could have done. He kind of peeked to the left as he came around the corner. It's just that guy was camping too deep in the corner, and there's not really much he can do in that scenario. And right now, you can see pushing around this right side for an amazing flank. This is actually probably one of the best ways to flank. You come around all the way around the outside. He knows where the enemies are. He comes and positions them. Instead of running back towards his teammates, he stays in this area. And this is what's going to be the common cause of almost every death in this first half. And in all honesty, there's no real reason to be this deep in the enemy spawn unless 1, you're trying to flip the spawn, or you are trying to spawn trap, which it doesn't look like this player's trying to do either. And even though they lose this particular gunfight that's coming up right now, the way they react to the gunfight shows me that they have pretty good gun skill. The reaction was on point. They lined up the target. The accuracy was there. They hit the shots. They were just damaged before they turned. There wasn't much they could do. And another indication to me that there's bad positioning is because based off this current scenario, there's no reason to push through mid-map. I would ideally gone around the right side or gone up the stairs, gone around that left side because the teammates have control. By running through middle of the map, there's so many angles you can get hit from, so it's typically something you want to avoid. And one interesting thing he does here is he peeks his home spawn for a very long time, at least until a teammate spawns there. But there's really no indication to tell him that there's an enemy in their home spawn. There wasn't much of a reason to even look that way in the first place. And you can see he's pushing around this right side again where he had some success flanking the enemy players, came around, got a couple kills, then overstayed his welcome. See right here, he's just kind of hanging out in this enemy spawn, jumps around the corner towards teammates and starts firing his weapon. There's not really a reason to actually fire his weapon in this general direction. I think he got a little bit distracted because he was getting shot and didn't exactly know from where. So now he feels a little bit safe. He decides to push back to the enemy spawn through this wide open door. A lot of gunfire going on. He pushes in a little bit deeper. Again, not the best push because he can get flanked around this right side. Looks like a teammate's there, kind of helping him, supporting him out. But personally, I think this is just a bad position. It tends to always be in a bad position if you're going to be that deep in the enemy spawn. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like a high risk, high reward scenario. So you got to be able to take advantage of that. And based off this particular gameplay, it looks like it's just the high risk part of it because he's not getting much out of it. He hasn't been able to use any specialists. He's pushed in there very aggressively. Doesn't have a lot of support from teammates. So all in all, it's just a bad decision where you keep overstaying your welcome and the enemies will punish you for it. I skip ahead just a little bit so you can see this rinse repeat happen again. I think that's the biggest issue is positioning on the map. Ideally, you want to be at mid-map, maybe on the left side, head glitching one of the barrels, maybe flipping the spawn purposefully if you know how to do that. And this current method will not work unless you are just going against the absolute worst enemies. And that's 2 subscriber gameplay reviews down. Let's go ahead and move on to the third. For the next gameplay, we're actually going to be looking at the Maddox on slums playing Kill Confirmed. I do have a few items I want to focus on, but then there's going to be a general theme to this particular breakdown. Right here, pretty good positioning. Comes around, pre-aims that spot, comes back around, jump shots, and happens to take the guy out. So if overall, I think this player has some pretty good gun skill, They're able to snap on targets. They react rather quickly, but they do make a few mistakes when it comes to controlling the map. So I use that terminology quite often, and controlling the map, what it means to me is making sure that the spawns never flip. And the whole reasoning behind that is because if you know where your spawns are, you know where the enemy's spawns are, and you're positioned in power positions, and a power position is a position where you have more than a 50-50 chance to win that gunfight. And there are several throughout most of the maps, but there's typically one that stands out. For slums, there is the middle of the map next to that water fountain. That's typically the area you want to lock down. You get a good idea where the enemies are coming from. They don't cross that midway point, so they can't flip the spawns. You don't push beyond that midway point, so you don't flip the spawns. And the enemies are going to push out from behind cover, out into the open, into your gunfire, which will obviously be better odds than a 50-50 gunfight, exactly like this particular scenario. I do want to touch on this next point because he has a random spawn off to the right side. That means there is an enemy in his home spawn. Touched about this earlier in the previous gameplay. You wonder why he gets shot in the back, because there was an enemy there. That's why there was that random right side spawn. There wasn't a attack deploy beacon there. And once they spawn in this time around, you can see it's a home spawn. So that tells you that home spawn is fairly clear. Someone could be in this general area, kind of pushed up a little bit deep, where they're going to probably flip the spawn. But since there's zero presence next to this water fountain, it's very hard to tell where the enemies are. I skipped ahead just a little bit because I want to focus on this little trick they use to go ahead and regain their ammo. But the downside of doing this trick is you will lose your score that was getting you close to that score streak. You're going to see he's going to be positioned where he's going to have 150 score. There's going to be a Maddox on the ground. Instead of picking up the Maddox to replenish his ammo, he changes his class setup and chooses Recon again. He's going to reload in with brand new ammo, but the problem is he lost that streak. He was 150 off a UAV, and personally that UAV might be even more valuable than that sensor dart. So in my opinion, there's actually 3 solutions to that problem. One is to run Scavenger, which can be a little bit easier said than done, but at the end of the day, if you run out of ammo on a regular basis, that's what you should do. The second scenario is to just pick up guns. Maybe you want to pick up a gun in the area, you killed about 3 people, or you participated in killing 3 people. You should have been able to pick up some kind of weapon. Even if it wasn't the best class setup, at least it was something to get you to that streak before you actually switch classes. And the third and final thing is to just run Crash. It just makes it way easier. You get your ammo bags, you get faster score, you've been able to cycle these streaks a little bit better. You obviously have the gun skill, was low health in that gunfight leading up to the second gunfight, so you lost it, but at the end of the day, the gun skill is pretty much there. The positioning is not there. Look at how deep he is in the spawn, flipping it around. Enemies are coming from every which angle, ends up in bad position after bad position. So I know it was requested in one of my previous videos, so I'm going to try and make the effort to go through every map and kind of highlight these power positions, because I think a lot of people struggle with where do I stand, where do I hang out, and how can I control the map. And by locking down one area of the map, you'll notice how big an impact that has on the spawns and reducing the amount of times they flip. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you'd like to be featured in a future breakdown, make sure you comment down below, read the description, and all that good stuff. If you did enjoy the video, let's see if we can get this video over 500 likes. And if you're brand new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications on. Typically, if you watch to this point, you should probably already be a subscriber. I appreciate all your guys' support on the channel. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.